If you're longing for a freer life, you're not alone. With the cost of living spiralling out of control, we speak to a lot of people who feel trapped in their current lives and who are looking for an alternative. But is an off-grid life a freer life? For many, living off-grid provides a sense of independence and freedom which is harder to find in a more traditional way of living. However, off-grid living has its constraints too, and having lived off-grid for many years now, it would be wrong of me to stand here and pretend that it's all campfires and hammocks, because it's not. The key issue is, what does freedom look like for you? It can take many forms: independence, financial security, freedom from responsibilities, escaping the 9 till 5, or living amongst nature. Some of these aspects can be achieved through off-grid living, but others absolutely can't. Living off-grid enables you to become more self-sufficient and less dependent on outside resources. You don't have to depend on utility companies for water or power, and you learn to deal with problems and projects on your own. This can definitely give you a sense of independence.
Yes!
And control over your life in a way that is difficult in traditional living situations. We were lucky in that we installed our solar power system just before things started to get ridiculously expensive. And we are horrified when we hear about the bills that people are having to pay for electricity in particular. The same could be said for food. The increase in prices and the disruption to supply over the last few years has meant that food independence has never been more important. We have a polytunnel which we installed last year, and it has been a real game changer when it comes to food security. With massive increases in the cost of living and debt, many people are looking for alternative, cheaper ways of life. But is off-grid living the solution to this? The problem here is that off-grid living often involves a large initial investment: shelter, water, power, food, livestock. Obviously, all of these things have an upfront cost, and it can take a long time before you start to feel the benefits of those investments. One of the biggest problems at the moment seems to be affording land. Fraser bought this land about 17 years ago to use as a yard for his tree surgery business. That's helped us hugely. Having spoken to people who haven't got land yet, it can definitely feel like a massive hurdle, especially when it comes to finding land that you're actually allowed to live on. But don't even get me started with that. If you're a homeowner, it's easier because you can sell your home and then use some of the money from that to buy land and then to set up your infrastructure. That's what we did. We bought a small bungalow, which was in a really bad way. We renovated it and we sold it and used the profits from the sale to get ourselves set up on this land. Just as an aside, there's been a few comments saying that I come from money. Don't let the Cambridge accent fool you. There is no trust fund. Daddy didn't pay for it, and everything we own we bought ourselves. Once you get set up, living off-grid often reduces your expenses, which is great, and that can lead to less money-related stress. A big example of this is being mortgage-free. Being free from debt and financial pressures is arguably the greatest freedom of all, and is not something that is easily achieved in the current financial climate. Whilst it is still easy to get carried away living off-grid and rack up large amounts of debt, the lifestyle generally lends itself to a more simplistic, minimalist way of life, which definitely helps the finances. Living off-grid often involves living closer to nature, which can definitely give a sense of freedom. There is no denying that living in a woodland makes for a calmer, more peaceful life. And it's definitely true in that our happiest moments tend to be outside here. Those first few dawn choruses after the quiet, dark winter mornings, the warm summer evenings as the air starts to cool, the explosion of colour as the leaves change and the berries come out in autumn. However, in our experience, this isn't so much something that is long-lasting, but something that comes and goes when you have time to enjoy it. And when you've got other pressures on you, you don't have time to go out and enjoy it in the same way that you might dream of before you start this life. We try to get outside every day. The children love being outside, and it definitely brings out the best in them. I wouldn't say that always brings a great sense of freedom. It can be quite stressful. Finding socks and shoes, sun hats, sun cream, or all the winter layers that we have to put on in the colder months. Yeah, that doesn't always leave you with a great sense of inner peace. During COVID, we saw the year of resignation, where people basically got time with their families at home and decided that going to work every day and slaving away wasn't really that fun. Parents actually got to spend time with their children, spouses actually got to spend some time together, and when the time came to head back into the office, people weren't so keen. In truth, this is a difficult one for us to comment on because Fraser and I still work 4 days a week. For Fraser in particular, this is really hard work because his job is incredibly physical. He gets home at the end of a tough day and there's still jobs that need to be done. Firewood needs to be brought in. The filters for the water might need scrubbing clean. the polytunnel probably needs watering, and those jobs make a hard, long day even longer. This isn't how we want to live forever, and we certainly don't plan to both work 4 days a week until we retire. But for now, it's what we have to do in order to keep our projects moving. So here's the bad news. If you are looking to live a life freer from responsibilities, there is a chance that off-grid life is not the right choice for you. The reason for this is that in its very nature, the idea of off-grid living is that you don't rely on other utility companies and outside resources, and that you rely on yourself. And that means when things stop working, you are the professional that has to fix it, or you are the person that has to find the solution. Really, you need to have a very good understanding of the systems that you've got in place so that you can troubleshoot when things go wrong. You don't want to be relying on people coming in and charging you a lot of money to fix things. That's not ideal at all. But with that comes quite a lot of stress and sleepless nights. You might have seen a few videos where we talk about some of the troubles that we've had with our Pylon Tech batteries as part of our solar power system.
I don't expect to keep having internal failures. I just don't like it.
And that's been really stressful. All of that time we had it hanging over us, and that can cause sleepless nights. There's a quote that we like, which is, "There's no such thing as progress, only trade-offs." And this is definitely true of this point. If you want to live a more independent life, then you have to take on more responsibility. That's just the way it is. If you still think that off-grid living is for you, you should definitely check out this video here so that you don't make the same mistakes we did.